This is the Aftermarket Radio Network. Hey, ever heard of the entrepreneurial curse? Do you see an opportunity everywhere you look? Are you ready to go multi-location? Or have you been approached to sell? From the Aftermarket Radio Network, Carm Capriato here with Remarkable Results Radio, and I'm with Greg Bunch from Transformers Institute at the Vision 2022 studios, and we discuss the boom in becoming a multi-shop owner and the future of our industry. Hey, thanks to our partners Apex and Shopware for providing you this episode. You know, Apex 2022 will build upon the unique dedicated space for the service professional designated as Repair Shop HQ. Now, inside of Repair Shop HQ is Joe's Garage with 10 working bays and key aftermarket suppliers demonstrating their products and services. Registration is now open. Plan on being in on the Apex action November 1st through the 3rd in Las Vegas. Register at aapexshow.com. You know, you call and you text, then you have to track whatever was said to a customer. Well, not anymore. With DVX, every detail ends up in one thread. Even better, DVX has a messenger platform that works just like Facebook's. Tap into the SMS of the future. Talk to my friends at getshopware.com. Hey, a warm welcome to my friend Greg Bunch. Hey, Greg.
Hey, welcome, and thanks for having me here.
Oh, I'm glad. It's been a while. I counted about 14 episodes we've done together, but we've been in dry dock for a little while.
Yes.
And I don't know why. I think it's because you're so darn busy. And maybe I didn't want to bother you?
No, don't ever think that. I'm never too busy for you.
What a guy. Aspen Auto Clinic out of Colorado, 6 stores. And, of course, the CEO of Transformers Institute. How long ago did you start Transformers?
We just passed our 5-year anniversary, if you can believe that.
Yeah, I can believe it because I was podcasting now for 7, so I remember that happening. And Greg, in my mind, was so cutting edge as you were visioning the future of bringing shops together that either had multiple stores or they wanted multiple stores, and that it isn't easy going from 1 to 2. You came on and done some incredible stories. Oh, my car, I almost lost my ass. I should have. I mean, your story, Greg's startup story is really humbling, and you're never afraid to tell people that it was really rough go in the beginning.
Well, it's funny. You know, I taught a 4-hour class this morning, what is a top 1% shop and how to be one. So I started my story in the morning about, you know, kind of getting everybody's attention on when I had the internal revenue officer land at my front counter and flash his badge and say, Mr. Bunch, I need a $25,000 check from you today. And I'm like, I'm not able to do that. And he says, well, do you have a place we can talk? So starting my conversation with, you know, where that was back in 2005, in the middle of a very ugly divorce, everything that could go wrong, it felt like all the forces were against me, and told the story how a very good friend of mine at the time, very spiritual lady, and was like, Greg, I'm praying for you, but I got to tell you, it's going to be a miracle of God if you don't have to file personal and company bankruptcy with everything you got going on. She knew the drama with my ex-wife and everything that was going on. And, you know, every time I met with her, she's like, it's a miracle. Yeah, I can't believe you haven't had to do that. Well, I think everybody was waiting to hear that that's my current wife. No, I even better, it's my current mother-in-law. So that's how I met my wife, was through my in-laws. And to this day, you know, 18, 19 years later, she still brings that up. You know, like, hey, do you remember? And I'm like, oh, yeah, I remember. So it's fun to be able to share that with people. It's not fun to, you know, go through those memories and the stress. Is it
a heartache every time you tell that story?
No, it's far enough past. It's okay. like recalling a movie that you saw. You know, it's just such a lifetime ago. And I don't want to be so far away from it that you forget, because, right, a couple bad things and you could be right back there tomorrow.
That's right.
And that's true for any of us. But at the end of the day, to see how my life is now, and, you know, being able to have a really well-operated shop with really good staff and allow me to do Transformers and be able to give back and be able to travel. And, you know, we bought a second home in Mexico, so we're spending some winters down there and just man, it's a whole new life.
Did you chase Ron Haugen down there?
Yeah, everybody goes, does that have to do with Ron? And yeah, Ron and I are really good friends. He's about a mile and a half from our places down there.
Oh no, I can't imagine what Friday night margarita nights are.
Yeah, we have a good time sometimes. He also, we joke, we actually had coffee. I flew in here from Cancun. That's where our houses are, real close to Cancun. And so we had coffee, and I told him about my entrepreneurial curse. And I said, that is that good entrepreneurs that do it right will have the money to retire early, but they can't, right? Your brain will not let you. You see opportunity everywhere.
Right.
And when we're in Mexico, we see opportunity everywhere. I mean, it's like the insurance company. They don't call you and bug you when your insurance is expiring. It's all personal responsibility. Like, they will just expire. They will turn your cell phone off, right? In America, they're hounding you. Pay your cell phone bill. Emails, text messages. Nope. You don't pay your cell phone bill, they just shut you off.
And so how can a company just not care that they lose a customer without reaching for it?
It's a different country, and the way they market, it's different. So anyway, but what I told Ron is, and for those of you who don't know, Ron works with me part-time, because we do marketing services now at Transformers as well. So we do direct mail. He's doing a lot with our retention marketing, rebate checks and IRS checks, and getting into some things on the digital side as well. So he's having a ball. But plus he's got some Airbnbs. He's remodeling houses. He's building houses for some people. I said, brother, you got the entrepreneurial curse.
There you go.
Can't sit still.
Well, there's your proof. You can retire and then do something else.
Right. My dad told me that years ago. He said, don't retire till you have something to retire to. And I've always taken that to heart because he saw it. Too many people that he knew that retired, either young or old, they just kind of die off, right? Because they don't have any purpose in life. There's actually studies by the military about officers that once they get out of that role, they don't live very long after the military because their identity has been put into, everybody salutes them and they're something when they go to work every day. They have purpose. And then now you're just a regular civilian and,
unless you go on cable news.
Yeah, you get disrespected from the kid at the drive-thru like everybody else. And, and they have a hard time with that. So that's probably a whole nother podcast. And I'm probably not the expert on that because I haven't got there yet. But, as especially as men, we put our identity of who we are into our careers. And I think that's just, there's some DNA wiring that goes into that. And so, when you're not the guy or anymore, I don't know if the ladies suffer that. I think it tends to be more of a male issue. But when you just become average Joe again, like some people really struggle with that.
Yeah.
So
I appreciate you being here because interviewing people, knowing people, second store, third store, fourth store, I can't keep up with what's going on in the industry from some very young shop owners that somehow have seen the light or they are participating with organizations like yours, giving them the direction and the confidence to grow. About how many, what do you think the percentage in the industry is of shops that are multi-store?
That's a great question. I'm going to say probably 3 to 4%.
I mean, that's not a lot.
No, it's not at all. And it's something that I've been talking about, right? So for those that have heard our podcasts before and kind of heard the story, right? When I started Transformers Institute, I wasn't going to start this big coaching consulting company that it is now. I just thought, hey, I'm going to do this part-time. I'm going to get some multi-store owners together. We're going to network. We're going to brainstorm and talk about best practices because especially at that time, and really there's not now. There's no real resources for multi-store. There's a couple of tire organizations and that kind of thing, but big picture. But then I'm also realizing, well, we're a pretty small crowd, right? The guys that are and gals that are multi-store, we're a pretty small crowd out there. And so, your big companies out there, they're catering to the single store guy and gal and helping them to build their business and get a solid business under their feet. But beyond that, like nobody was really talking about the multi-store. And then simultaneously, we're reading headlines in Ratchet Wrench and Motor Age and going, Carl Icahn just bought a bunch of stores, and Mavis, they just bought a bunch of stores, and Monroe, they just bought a bunch of stores. What's going on here?
Yeah.
And starting to understand the world of strategic finance and private equity and going, okay, wait a minute. they see something in our industry that most your average shop owner has no idea, right? So the opportunities that are out there, that we are a multi-billion dollar industry that's fragmented, that shops are at $600,000 to $1 million at a time. It's very, very fragmented. And so the big finance guys are going, hey, wait a minute. If we put all these things together, we have some horsepower. And there's a lot of money to be made if we do this thing right. So in my presentation today, I showed a bunch of 2021 headlines, okay? All of these new acquisitions, new private equity firms buying other private equity firms. And so you have this whole behind-the-scenes movement going on that most of the industry just has no idea. And here's where the magic is okay, what does that mean? It means that if you put things together and you buy up some local shops and you do some consolidation yourself and you get a strong 3, 5, 7 location business going, you're going to have those kind of folks knocking at the door, and they're going to give you a much higher multiplier than you would even if you had one super solid store that you ran. And that's the other piece of it. A lot of businesses run really, really well because the owner goes to work there every day. They don't know how to grow beyond that and go, and that's why people freak out when they hear what I do. And I'm not saying go walk out of your business, right? It's not that I don't work. I work every day, and I'm still heavily involved. I'm not writing service. I'm not fixing cars. I'm not dealing with upset customers. I've got an infrastructure in place to deal with that. And so that's why, I have 2 voicemails on my telephone right now that I haven't had time from last week that are from these kind of organizations. And of course I'm going to have the conversation, but I know where they're calling. Either they want access to my network of multi-store owners that I work with, or they want to talk actually about, my 6 stores.
Hey, Apex has announced a new and exciting webinar series produced by Shop Owner and Tire Review that will offer training on automotive technology and business management. See all the classes and register at aapexshow.com/webinar. Now stay ahead of the curve and don't miss these free Apex webinars that run now until September 2022. These webinars are part of a new 8-part Apex Repair Shop HQ series that will provide essential takeaways on ADAS and alignment diagnostics, hiring and retaining employees, no-code drivability diagnostic strategies, service advisor customer satisfaction strategies, navigating the rapids ahead, and start-stop system diagnostics. Each 45-minute webinar is recorded so you can share it with your team. See a complete list and attend any or all webinars. Simply register at aapexshow.com/webinar. You got to stay ahead of the curve, and you know that. Don't miss the next free Apex webinar. Register now, aapexshow.com/webinar. Hey, if you run more than one shop, you know how vital it is to keep up with how each one is performing, but it can drive you crazy to log in and out of each shop's database as you try to compare KPIs. Well, stop making it hard. With Shopware's advanced analytics, you can easily pull all the data into one report. Heck, you can even set up the system to pump it out in a graph or a chart, then email it to you anytime you want it. Why tax your brain before you even start looking for trends and wins to celebrate? Let the computer do all the work for you. Spend less time sifting through pages of numbers. Now, once you've seen your business's potential right in front of you, you can take steps to make it even better. Now then you can take the night off to enjoy the time you just won back. Benefit. Hey, go with the team that created DVX. My friends at GetShopware.com. If you want to know what a multiple is and you're listening and says Greg's talking a little Greek, the top 1% get it, they know it, they appreciate it, but it's a factor on top of then, I don't know if is it the EBITDA number, Greg, that in your mind?
And on a small business, they're looking usually at sellers' discretionary earnings or EBITDA. And so just in absolute easy layman's terms, a guy takes a $100,000 paycheck from his business. His P&L shows he made an additional $150,000, so we're at $250,000. If you do add backs of the company truck and the extra insurance and the cell phones and some of the other things that business owners run through their business, so maybe that's another $50,000. So now we're at $300,000. we take the depreciation, so all the equipment depreciations, let's say that's another $20,000. So, even though that shop owner is used to living off $100K, their EBITDA would be, let's say in this example, $320,000. And so you would multiply that $320,000, the average shop, and this is really changes all across the country. So it depends on the market. But let's say, somewhere around a 3 times multiplier. So 3 times 320 is where they're going to land as far as what the value of their business is. And for most people, that's really discouraging because they go, holy cow, it's not worth selling. Like, that's less than $1 million after I pay off my debt and pay off taxes. There's not enough money for me to retire.
There's $500,000 left.
Yeah, but I can live off $200,000, so they just keep running their business. Mm-hmm. And so, that's what we call lifestyle business, right? But they have to go to work every day or else the wheels fall off.
And isn't that a factor for someone looking to come in and make an acquisition?
Oh, yeah.
I got to be here every day. Well, if you go away, maybe so does the business. I can't pay you what you want.
Right. Yeah. Let me finish on this real quick.
Sure.
So when I say a multiplier, now if you've got multi-store, that multiplier, as long as obviously you're making money, that's where you're going to get a strategic or financial buyer, and it could be a 5 or 6 times multiplier. Yeah. I mean, I know somebody who recently got a 7 multiplier. I mean, it's so that changes the whole game when it comes to equity and what are you working for every day. If the business relies on you to function well every day, and believe me, you can lie about it and say, "Oh no, it does fine without me." These guys know they're smart business people. If they discern that this business does not run without you, they're going to have to, if that owner, like we talked about, that made $100,000, they're going to take that out of the EBITDA calculation because they're going to go, well, wait a minute, if we take you out, we got to put a manager in, and we're going to have to pay that person $100K. So now your value of your business drops even more.
Right.
And so, that's a tough conversation as we work and consult with our clients that are looking at acquisitions. I mean, I'm literally looking at deals almost on a daily basis now, Carm, because so many people are, hey, I got this deal. This guy wants to sell to me. That it's popping, and we have to look at him and go, okay, his take-home pay is $40,000. His P&L is minus $24,000, and he wants $800,000 for the business. Okay, somebody has to say your baby's ugly. I'm sorry, and coaching them. How do you do that? Like literally, how do you have that conversation that I'm sorry, your business is worth the equipment at probably a 25 to 50 cent on value, and maybe a little bit of money for your database and your phone number, and here's a little bit of something if your employees stay. But I'm going to have to put a manager in, I'm going to have to remodel, I'm going to have to market, I'm going to have to mark up your prices. And if you've been giving away all your work all this time, right, customers are not going to react well to that. I mean, and guys are doing it, and they're turning these shops around, but there's a cost to be paid for that, both in time and money. And so, these owners, they've kind of painted themselves in a corner in a very sad way because they don't think about, right? Stephen Covey says it well, begin with the end in mind. Right. And, it wasn't probably until the last 10 years that I started even thinking about this stuff. You're just like, no, I go to work every day and try and grind it out and make a couple $100,000 a year. Like, what do you mean? And succession, equity, like that stuff just wasn't even on my radar until, I start hanging out people that can talk and understand this kind of thing and have been around the bush and go, wait a minute. There's a whole nother level to business than what I ever thought it was when I started mine.
Imagine being a shop owner that came up the hard way, being a tech and then walking it through, and now they have an opportunity to make an acquisition, and they're a member of a coaching company, maybe specifically Transformers, and because the reason they're there with you is because they do want to grow,
right?
And have someone like you and their peers in these groups,
right,
help them analyze the transaction, realize the things that are around the next corner that they don't see.
Right. We do a lot of that, especially in our Platinum group, right, where those guys are most of them are multi-store, a few of them are right on the edge of going multi-store, and a lot of great discussions about that. But we've realized there's more education that we need to bring out to market, and I think he's been on the show, a very dear friend of mine, Brian Sump.
Oh, yeah.
Him and I are putting a program together. Troy Kaplan of TGK is also joined the Transformers team. And so part of that is we want to offer even a deeper level of education. So not only prepping your store, making sure your foundation's solid for growth, but let's really talk through some of these acquisitions, because it's a minefield.
It's like a discovery team. I mean, you're going to help uncover the strength of deals.
Yeah, we're putting like a group coaching cohort together. Where, 6, 7, 8 shop owners at a very high level bring in their, here's the deals I have on the table. Here's the opportunities. We're going to talk about partnerships, talking about, real estate, talk about the employees that are there, what kind of staffing, what kind of training, what about branding, what about how do we finance the deals, and really start doing a deeper level of education than we've even done before.
So it's education versus analysis?
Both. Yeah,
okay.
It's a combo in both. So we take a real life example of a shop that's for sale.
Tear it apart. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about the due diligence. What did you find on this? Oh, I didn't even ask about that. Okay, we need to know. Bingo. I see.
And start making sure that we're avoiding the minefield.
Yeah.
When I'll be 2 weeks. I don't know if you're going to be there, but I'll be at the World Pack SDX, and I'll be doing a expansion class. And in that class, in the second half of it, I do have an actual real brochure from a shop that was for sale, and we're going to pick it apart and do some analyze it and go, was this a good deal? This is what they asked for it. This is what they got for it. And it was a deal that I ended up passing on, but I was able to, I of course canceled out, so nobody knows where the shop was, and the transaction happened a couple of years ago anyway. But a lot of shop owners literally have never ever seen a packet from a business broker on a business for sale. And what does all this mean? Why does the P&L show negative, but then you're telling me the guy makes $250,000 a year, right? He was overpaying himself on rent. He had the ad backs, all those kind of things. So, I want to expose people to what's out there. And then, people are getting phone calls going, hey, I want to sell my shop. Well, how much do you want? I don't know. Okay, let's look at your financials. Well, I'm 2 years behind on those. Okay, what about your tax returns? Well, I'm 2 years behind on those too. And so, what do you do when they get these deals, right? You can pay a premium for a super well-run shop, or, like a lot of us, we like our project cars, right? There's project businesses, and you need to know what you're getting into, and is this got good bones? Can it be fixed up?
I failed in the beginning to mention that we're recording this at Vision 2022, and of course it's their 30th year, and thanks to Sherry Hamilton for hosting us again. And the Sheraton Hotel's bar is like a real melting pot here.
Right.
And Tracy and I were just chatting. She says, oh my God, I had no idea. It's really good, big cushy chairs and everything. And I thought it was the 12th man, like in football, right? The fan. I mean, that part of vision that a lot of networking happens. Well, anyway, I bumped into you last night knowing we were going to have this podcast today, and you said, it was my slides from 2018 and 2019, Carm. We have to talk about that tomorrow, and it has come true. And you were probably a visionary back then, but you felt in your bones where this industry was headed.
Right. Am I some super, got this magic crystal ball that nobody has? No, it's reading what's going on.
You're reading the tea leaves.
Talking to people and asking a lot of questions, and talking to these private equity guys. I had the privilege. He's moved on, but the past president of Monroe, we met at a advanced auto parts deal down in Dallas. We were both on a board that Bob Cushing invited us to speak at. And we had dinner together, and I said, hey, I'd love to pick your brain. He goes, oh, yeah, great. So we had a great conversation for over an hour, and I mean, it was very eye-opening to me. So when we talk about, right, a single store with a 3 times EBITDA multiplier, and then we talk about a multi-store having a 5 or 6 multiplier, well, it's public record. I mean, Monroe is a publicly traded company. Go look that up. They're trading at like 19 to 22. So the day that he buys a shop for 6, it's worth 3 times, 4 times what it was the next day.
Yeah.
Because now it becomes part of that bigger family.
Right.
And so that's an understanding of equity and how, the publicly traded companies get involved in this. So I think we're going to see a lot of it is still private money right now, but right, what does private money do? They roll into public. And I'm not saying I have any inside information on that, but it's just logical that there's only a couple publicly traded automotive repair businesses in our country. If these private equities do what they want, I think we're going to see more of those going public in the next 5-10 years.
Is it an opportunity to get out and really, get your life sweat equity, in a nice check to put in the bank and do with it what you want? Are we concerned at all in the industry that this kind of private equity growth it's bay count, it almost seems to me, we want more bays. Are we going to run these businesses? Are these private equity firms going to run these businesses like we've become accustomed to?
That's a great question. And I think to some degree, it's to be determined. And so there's an unnamed company that we talked about before the microphones went hot there's two companies that are known for doing acquisitions and ruining the company, ruining the shops that they buy. And so, yes, that is a real thing. We spend 20, 30, 40 years building up our legacy, building up our employees, our culture, how we treat customers. Everybody knows everybody's name. It's like walking into Cheers when you walk into our shop. And then all of a sudden, things change. As an owner, we're like, what's going to happen to our employees? What are they going to do? What are they going to do with our customers? And that's a real thing because it's our legacy. It's our reputation. It's everything we put on the line. But I do know there's a couple other private equity firms that seem to, at least as of what I've seen right now, seem to be working really hard to preserve the culture and the business model and the name of the company. They're not going in and making changes like some of these other companies had a reputation for. So I think you're going to see both sides of that. Hopefully, a lot of these guys are smart enough to know that independent repair shops are successful because they're run by independent people who love people and love working on cars and love customer service, and that is the magic of an independent repair shop. And if you take the magic out of it, you're going to find yourself in deep trouble because you're not going to have that market share that you thought you were buying. You're not going to have the high level of employees that you thought. In fact, there was one of these to be unnamed consolidators that bought some shops up in the Pacific Northwest and went to the technician and said, "Hey, great news! We're opening up on the weekends." My client that works has a Monday through Friday shop said, "Hey, you wouldn't believe the applications I'm getting in." So what they think, right, is a good quote-unquote business decision. Well, if we can make this much money in 5 days, we're going to make that much more in 6 and that much more in 7. Not if you don't have staff. You're not going to be able to do that. So they learned that lesson. I think they were planning on opening 7 days a week, and they backed down to 6 days a week because nobody wanted to work. They were going to lose their whole technical staff.
This recent 5 minutes that you just gave us it is so near and dear to, I think, our listeners' heart about, I know I've got a great company, and I know I want to kind of build wealth, and I know I want to employ a lot of people, and I know I want to serve my market, and I have a great brand and a great team and a great culture. But I'm doing this because I know that one day I may not have an internal candidate that can pull this off and get me what I want. So it's going to ultimately have to be sold, and that's where the trend is. You can sit across, Craig, from the buyer. Mm-hmm. You're the seller, and I'm the private equity guy.
Right.
So ask me the question, Carm, are my people okay?
Of course.
Yeah. I would say that.
Great care of them.
Are you kidding me? They're in great hands. I mean, we've got this incredible track record. You're going to screw with their pay at all? Absolutely not. Guess what? The strategy short term is exactly that. Mm-hmm. It doesn't mean that some way down the road in the strategic plan of this acquisition that we have to consolidate and fix and change and move. And that's the reality. I mean, I was on corporate America's side. He said, we can't touch this company for a year. So the answers are, yes, nothing's going to happen. Then you look at it so far down the road, and you see how it fits into the other plans.
So that's a great point. But I want to speak to the shop owner that's concerned about this. And here's the reality. If you have a really well-run, profitable shop with a great culture, they are much less likely they're going to screw with it. So they're going to say, hey, that thing's making money. Don't mess with it. We got other fish to fry. If you're kind of a mess, then yeah, I think they're probably going to be, that's what everybody fears, they're going to gut it, make a bunch of wholesale changes. But some of the deals that I have seen go on, if it's a really, really well-run shop or a chain of shops, they're not really messing with it. In fact, they're leaving, they're giving the the owner or one of their key staff some equity to make sure that it stays that way.
They want to duplicate what you have. They may go out and make, say you're a 7 or 8 store and they go out and buy a 2 or 3. They may find slightly weaker and build it into what you currently have. You find someone at the selling operation that stays and becomes like the GM or the COO of that business?
I can't say that I've seen that yet. We're going to see that in our industry, but I've absolutely seen that in other industries. I was part of a mastermind group, a non-industry mastermind group, and I saw that happen. He's in the dog toy business. Mm-hmm. So just like a shop owner, he built his $10, $11 million dog toy company. And consumer products, you can bring a lot more money in for a less amount of employees. So probably, the size of an average shop, 15, 16 employees, well, maybe a pretty good size shop. Mm-hmm. They gave him a piece to say, we want you to stay on, we want you to be the CEO, and we're going to infuse the company with capital, and we want you to do acquisitions. And so he stayed with the company and built it, I think, to 50 or 60 million. And then another private equity firm came around and said, hey, you did a great job there. So he got a paycheck in the very beginning. He got a paycheck on the first rollout. And now he's looking at another final paycheck with the third rollout. And now, because I think they're, last I heard, $120 million in sales, and he's still the CEO. Now his percentage of that was smaller, but the smaller percentage still means a lot more dollars.
The numbers are higher,
right? And he's like, I've had a blast running the whole game. Now he is a high level, top notch operator. You also have the exact opposite that could happen. Is you're a guy that can build a $5 million company, but you don't know how to run a $10 million company or how to build that, and they're going to kick you off the wagon, and they're going to bring somebody in that knows how to do it. So it can go either way. It could be a wild ride for somebody that's the career path that they want.
Would you ever expect that 5 years ago we would be having a discussion like this?
No.
Amazing.
I just can't imagine what our conversation 5 years from now is going to look like.
I know. It's going to be so different. Look, I know you're doing some really great things at Transformers. You started some special mastermind groups, which I think is exactly right.
Thank you. Yeah, like I said, the original was the multi-store, and it was just going to be a part-time thing that I was going to do, and Jason Servideo helping me with that. So that grew and said, okay, I didn't see the vision. I've been involved in a quote-unquote 20 group that had 60 or 70 people in one group, and it lost it. It wasn't, to me that, 15, 16, maybe 20 people, that's really the max to have the kind of intimacy and group that I was talking about. Mm-hmm. So what happened is we started getting people on a waiting list. They heard about what we were doing. They saw the people that were part of it and said, hey, I want to be a part of that. So we formed a second group. Another platinum group, and then we had guys with single stores that weren't ready for a platinum group. I said, hey, well, let's put a gold group together for the single store. And so it's evolved, and we've got 3 platinum groups. We're going on 3 gold groups. I imagine after this conference we're gonna have a waiting list for some of that. And then they started saying, well, what do you have for our store manager? What do you have for our COO/district manager? The guy that oversees 3 to 5 to 10 locations. And so we started putting programs together. And those are a little bit different. They're, the model's a little bit different. There's more leadership training and things that go into those. But overall, it's a group of growing peers, right? People that are dedicated to being the best and investing. So they appreciate the owners of the companies investing in them. Some of them do have some equity. That's been a real hit. We've got, I think, a waiting list for those groups. And then our most recent, that's been wildly successful, is our shop foreman. And so, again, we had shop owners going, hey, what do you have for shop foreman? We're like, nothing, but we'll put something together here. Because a shop foreman is such a critical role in all of our shops, but nobody invests in their leadership. Right, so this isn't a technical class. They're not going there to learn to better diagnose cars, but they're getting together and they're sharing best practices, dispatching, safety, workflow, hiring, firing, discipline, diagnostics, leadership, accountability, professional growth, communication. Those are all the topics that are being covered in our mastermind programs, and they're visiting each other's shops and evaluating each other's shops and learning from each other. And Matt Lockowitzer and Frank Scandura are facilitators of those groups, and they're both here. Sherry got wind of what we were doing and said, hey, I want to talk about, let's put a class together for shop owners here at Vision about shop foreman, and what is their role? Because you could talk to 10 different shop owners, and they'll tell you 10 different things of what a shop foreman should do or what they want out of it, right? Are they a production employee, or do they just oversee? Do they hire and fire? Do they train? So, are they there to train? Are they the head diagnostic person?
Is there any one answer?
No. Do they run the safety program? Are they the one that updates all the scan tools? Are they the ones that do dispatch and manage workflow through the shop? Like, you go, wait a minute, a shop foreman's a pretty broad topic.
You just described a job description to me.
Yeah, but there's too many, right? Well, so you want this guy to do all of this work, and you want him to produce 40 hours a week. Okay, when is he supposed to do all that other work? Well, I don't know. What's his communication style? I don't know. Has he been in a leadership role before? Well, no, but he's really good at fixing cars. Okay, being really good at fixing cars and diagnosing does not make you a people person. So let's talk about the skills that are necessary to be in a leadership role. Now, some of these folks are, they have some natural people skills and abilities and, can do really well in that. And they're really great technicians and, great work ethic and smart and all that. The shop foreman has just been such an underappreciated role, and it's such an important role in all of our shops. It's been great. And so it's, people say, well, what do we need to do?
So how do I know, as a shop, how many techs do I need? How many essays do I have to be able to think of the position, afford the position? Is there any kind of KPI?
That's a tough one. You could have a shop with 5 technicians, and you don't need a shop foreman because they're all just rock stars. They're all A-techs. They all know what they're doing. They've been working together a long time. Probably don't need a shop foreman.
And the front and the back communicate really well. They're using technology. Okay.
Right.
All right.
Or you can have a shop with 2 technicians, and you really need a shop foreman because they're both, up and coming C-techs. They really need a lot of direction. And that shop foreman, his primary role is going to be diagnostics. It's going to be dispatch. It's going to be training, bringing up these, the younger people. And so, absolutely, there could be a shop foreman in that role.
If you're still working and producing, that's a pretty tough role. You have to have the right person.
You do. We have a shop foreman in each one of our 6 stores, and I would say each of them have different skills, abilities, and talents, and produce, different hours. It's not as cookie cutter. It's not. We have to be flexible within our roles, right? And one of my slides today, an organization with a good culture is going to exaggerate their strengths and compensate for their weaknesses. And so if you've got a shop foreman with a different kind of personality, maybe he's not as driven on the leadership side, but he's really, really good at diagnostics, right? How do we compensate for that? Maybe the store manager takes on some of those coaching roles with the technicians.
Greg, if I had a shop foreman, would I look to my KPIs to see how effective they are by looking at my effective labor rate?
I look at technician productivity.
Okay.
And so part of the role that I would anticipate most shop foremen would be is to get more out of the shop than they would without that position. So if I've got 4 technicians and I want 120 hours, 160 hours a week, 40 hours out of those 4 technicians a week, and I've got the shop foreman's job, if he doesn't flag anything, but he can help the whole entire shop produce the 160 hours,
right,
then I'm happy. Maybe his folks don't have the ability to flag that, and he's got to pick up 20 of those, right? So overall, technician productivity, how many hours are being produced? Because a good shop foreman should be able to manage the shop and manage the employees and train the employees, so the overall production of the shop is where the KPI needs to be. That's more than the effective labor rate. That's more on the service advisors, not discounting and the balancing out can jobs and that kind of thing.
Did you ever think 5 years ago you'd be having a house in Cancun and being a speaker who everybody wants to have?
Probably not the speaker part, but honestly, my wife and I, 18 years ago when we got married, honeymooned down there, and thought, man, it'd be cool to have a place down here. And so, we took a lot of family vacations there, and Mexico is very inexpensive in the summer, right? Because it's hot, but that's when the kids were out of school, and it just became our happy place that we continued to go back to, and we started looking at condos. And it's like, man, with all the kids and the business, we'd only be down here 4 weeks a year, and we couldn't afford something close enough to the beach to rent out. And so I'd get all hyped up, and then I'd get depressed, and get hyped up and get depressed. And then I'm home in Colorado when it's snowing outside, and I'm watching Caribbean Life and Mexico Life. All these episodes, about Mexico. Hey, look, here's one in Playa del Carmen. Here's one in Tulum. Here, and so we're watching these, and then I realized I just got really mad at myself. And I was like, I'm going to stop watching this, or I'm going to freaking buy something.
You said,
I'm going to stop torturing myself.
Damn it, I'm doing something.
You have a great tan, by the way.
Thank you.
Very sun-kissed.
Of course, everyone knows that Tracy's my content director, my producer, my right-hand person, and we chatted today. Let's put a mic in front of her just in case she wants to ask a question or make a comment. And so this is twice today. This could be some kind of trend, Tracy.
Yes. She's got a great voice, and we need to get you on here
really?
more. Absolutely.
My hesitation was I hate the sound of my voice.
Oh no!
So anytime he said be on a podcast, be on an episode, I'm like, you'll have to edit it then because there's no way I'm going to be listening to my voice.
All right, so all of us out there, send Carmen an email. Give Tracy some encouragement. Let her know that she has a great radio voice.
2 thumbs up for Tracy.
Yes.
Well, thank you. Thank you for everybody here at Vision that has gotten to know Tracy and says, damn it, put the mic in front of you and contribute.
You've always had wonderful episodes. Very easy to edit.
You mean he doesn't say every 10 words?
No.
All right,
I've gotten better at that.
He speaks very well. I mean, you definitely have a good vibe about how you speak. You can tell you're a coach.
So I got to give credit to Mrs. Bjork, who was my 7th and 8th grade competitive speech teacher.
Oh.
So we would memorize speeches, and we'd go compete with other junior highs across Southern California. So that helped, break the mold of public speaking and getting in front of people. And at the last year of my high school, I got a job at a radio station. And so it was a Christian radio station. And so they would play, they'd play a 30-minute sermon, and then you'd plug in the little cassette. I don't know if you guys ever go back in radio. You had these little cassette commercials, and then you'd read something, and then you'd go. So I had my coach there that taught me, how to read ahead.
And we called them carts, by the way.
Yeah, carts back in the day. So much difference than it is. And then if you really, really were good and you made your bosses happy, on Saturday night they actually played music. And so you got to actually put records on and spin them up and DJ. So that was a lot of fun. So, and this was funny. I said, well, I want to learn radio in case I ever need like a fallback career, which was funny because I didn't actually have any other career.
Yeah.
And he goes, no. Radio is something you need a fallback career for.
Exactly. No, they're 100% right because I rarely tell any stories. Yeah, I was a rock and roll DJ in Buffalo Radio. I really wanted to go full time. I really wanted to see where I could possibly take this career, college radio, and I realized that I had to move. And I probably had to move every couple of years from city to city if you really wanted to earn anything and get into the bigger major markets. And so, Buffalo at that time was like market 23. Now it's kind of not that big of a city. You don't make a lot of money in radio in a small market. You make it only in the big ones. So I would have been a nomad, no doubt.
Right.
But can we tell a story about my speech person?
Of course.
And I don't think I've ever told this, Trace. You know the story, right? I had a terrible first semester in college. I did things I shouldn't have done. I joined the radio station. I pledged to fraternity. I discovered freedom and woman and beer and
if you can't
fun.
See Tracy, her eyes are getting really big right now.
And so I was the oldest in my family to go to college, and it was exciting. It was any discipline. It was like throw him in the deep end of the pool and see if he can swim. And my professors came up to me. Well, that's the first time I'm ever telling this story. And they said to me, "You need to come to my office." So this was near the end of the first semester. And they said, "You were one of the people we never thought would have flunked out of school. and every one of my professors said that to me. I just wasn't doing the homework, and
too many distractions.
I didn't have Greg Bunch as a coach, for example. I didn't have an accountability partner. And so when I go to the speech professor says, "You're flunking out." I had confidence. I didn't think that I had a problem speaking in front of people. And she goes, "You have to nail the final if you're going to get a C out of this course. And if not, like your other professors, you're done." Well, that was a monumental change. It's one of those things you never forget, a lifetime memory that I threw away at college because I partied and I did things that I shouldn't have done, right? And I love telling this story because I think there's the personal disciplines that you end up learning. So I get back. I had pledged the fraternity, so I get back to the fraternity house, and I'm down. And I realized, okay, I know I've got to read, and I know I've got to study, and I know I've got to do all this work, but how the hell do I ace a speech when it's subjective?
Sure.
Did he or didn't he meet the requirements? And I found out the speech was a demonstration speech. And I go, wow, what am I going to demonstrate? And so I decided, Greg, that I was going to shave in front of the class.
Oh, okay.
Remember that story?
I remember that story.
Yeah, okay. And so I brought, kind of a canteen of water in a bowl and my razor, and there's no mirror. Okay, so I wanted them to be the mirror. And I shaved. Of course, I didn't shave that morning, all day, and I shaved in front of the class. And I described what I was doing and why I was doing what I was doing, and I nailed it. So thank you for sharing your speech story. And I've never ever told this in 7 years. And I think Tracy's almost bringing this world of Carm. People want to know a little bit more about you.
I'll get more out of him, everybody.
Yes.
Don't you worry. Will you share your radio name?
Oh, yeah, I will. It was Gary Hamilton.
Oh, wow.
And
It's official.
And Greg, back in the day when I got this gig.
Did you say it with the real, "This is Gary Hamilton"?
Well, it was probably like that. But here I am, Carm Capriato, going into, and I'm thinking, oh my God, that's a little too ethnic for Buffalo Radio or for this company that owned this radio station. And I walked in, I got the job. I was the happiest guy in the world. And the program director looked at me and says, "And you will be Gary Hamilton." And I saluted him, "Yes, sir," because I wanted the gig so bad. It just didn't matter. And I had known buddies that were in Buffalo Radio that had a stage name, right? And so I was Gary Hamilton, and I had to do the research and find out why. And there was a DJ at that station from 2 years ago, and they had the jingle of his name on the cart, more music, Gary Hamilton, and they were going to pay for more music, Carm Capriato, and so I became Gary Hamilton.
That's funny.
Yeah, I know.
That's funny.
Yeah.
So does anybody ever say, like, "Gary"?
Oh, yeah. I still have a bunch of friends that I knew back in the day, and they'll come up to me and they'll say, "Hey, Gary," just for effect.
That's funny. That's funny.
Just for effect.
Well,
so anyway, I want to thank you for being here. Is there anything you see on the horizon that we should be paying attention to?
There's a lot that we need to be paying attention to, right? We talked about that in my class this morning. A CEO has to be looking over the horizon. So we talked about, electric cars, technology, gas prices. There's a lot of things that we need to be looking at into the future. And what's happening in the industry right now, and Carm, I'll add this one last thing. I know Jason Servideo has been a guest on here as well. So Jason does our service advisor classes. He's got one coming up here in April in Colorado, does a lot of 4-day classes, doing weekend classes. He really has put a name out there being one of the best service advisor trainers.
He's actually been in my hometown.
That's right. That's right.
Times,
I think you went to one of his classes.
Yeah.
But he had this idea, and I said, hey, like you do with any player, let's go for it. Let's find out what happens. So his daughter, for 6 or 7 years, has been in QA. And so most of us kind of raised an eyebrow, not knowing really what that was. But all the Fortune 500 companies, they have, inbound phone calls. You call for customer service. Well, somebody is training that and managing that. And so they have criteria, right? This is what you say. This is what you don't say. This is how you say it. This is how you don't say it. You all hear it, right? This call may be recorded for quality purposes. Well, that's real. Somebody is listening and critiquing those people that answer the telephone. And so he's like, talking to his daughter, and Jason's probably legitimately listened to more phone calls than anybody else in our industry. Literally, I think we're up to 10,000 phone calls that he's listened to, right? Analyze. Why do people say, okay, thanks, bye? Why do they not bring their car in? And what can we do to fix it? And that's a big part of our service advisor training. Him and his daughter say, hey, I need a couple months. I need to work on this program, and I promise you it's going to be mind-blowing. What he did is they developed a QA program for the automotive repair industry. It's literally the only one of its kind. And so a shop will give us access to their inbound phone calls, and we listen to 50 a month of real phone calls. So we're getting rid of the Google calls, the robocalls, the parts calls. I mean, these are legitimate 50 calls of of people that need auto repair. And we measure, there's about 52 different data points that we're measuring from, the way that they answered the phone. Did they get the customer's name? Did they lock in the appointment? What was their empathy level? What was their tone? Did they give a price over the phone? What all these, and Jason customizes it with what, we have criteria to pick from that shop owner will do. And then we go through and he does a training and an executive summary with that shop owner, and we're seeing conversion rates jump. If that owner takes reality and says, okay, I'm going to take this back to my staff and do the training and really work with them and fix these things, we're seeing a massive improvement on the phone call to appointment ratio. Okay, little infomercial in there, but the bottom line is Jason and I, we do a debrief, and he's going, Greg, even with our really good shops, there's a level of a lack of empathy going on people's telephone calls right now that's scary. And I go, what do you mean? He goes, you can tell somebody to go to hell and they will still say, okay, but when can I bring my car in? Because right now, there's just not enough capacity for auto repair in most. Now, we saw February, we saw a dip, but people are losing their edge in customer service and being inviting and being welcoming and bathing in empathy. I'm really sorry, Carm. I'm not able to get your car in until this Friday. We're a victim of our own success. We're just, we're really backed up. I'm sorry that I have to do this to you. I know you're a great customer. We're working on hiring another technician so we can get through this. But man, I just if I can get you in a rental car or something until you can get your car in, I want to do something. But man, you're valuable to me. That's not happening. What's happening is no, don't have any appointments till Friday.
Yeah.
Oh, not till Friday. You sure? Yep. Okay, thanks, bye. So shop owners, be careful. We have a tendency to get lazy on our customer service and how well we do on the phone right now. And this season that we're in is not going to last, and it's going to be painful when it does. And people go, I'm not calling that guy again. They were rude. They were indifferent. They didn't care about getting me in. And so even if you can't get somebody in, leaving them a good memory with what that experience was on that phone call. I called a place in town, and it's a specialty pizza place in Colorado. And the guy, he recognized my caller ID. He's like, oh, you're from Aspen Auto Clinic. I said, yeah, I'm the owner. And he goes, I am really sorry. We make like our own homemade dough. We only make like 40 pies a day, and we are completely sold out. We're a small business. We only do this 3 days a week. And he goes, but please call me back. I want to make sure that I'm going to bring my BMW in. I've heard great things about you, but I really want you to try my pizza. I've been to Mexico since then, but when I get back, believe me, I'm ordering a pizza from that guy.
Sure.
Like, it's like, hey, this guy sold me on his pizza, and I didn't even got to taste it yet, right? It's like this anticipation of, gosh, I can't wait to get back and order a pizza from that guy. He made that a memorable connection with me that I'm going to remember that, and I'm going to order that pizza when I get back.
Very, very wise words. The next frontier of our industry, I believe, is sales growth, and it is going to be the level of training and expertise. I mean, I think it takes a certain person to be an integrator. It's going to take a certain kind of person to really be an embraceable phone sales advisor, confidant in the business.
Right. Something
on that order. This was great. I learned a lot. You always bring great, wise words of wisdom. Greg Bunch, 6 stores, Aspen Auto clinic.
Now, please don't blow up my phones and be like, hey, your guy wasn't very good on the phone. Like, of course, Murphy's Law, you're going to call in the GS that's going to grab the phone and do a horrible job.
Yeah,
so,
well,
believe me, we work on our own training, and sometimes, the cobbler's shoes are the last to get fixed. So, but it is something. I mean, the importance of being really, really good on the phone can't be emphasized enough. And, I'm honored that I have somebody like Jason and my team that can bring that kind of training to the industry.
And, of course, CEO of Transformers. A lot of great stuff today. Greg, thanks for being here, man.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being on board to listen and learn from the premier automotive aftermarket podcast. Until next time.